Tsavo National Park in Kenya, East Africa. One of the Earth's last great natural wildernesses. People are drawn from all over the world to marvel at its huge variety of animals. But what Tsavo is really famous for is its vast concentration of over 11,000 savanna elephants. These animals are the largest land mammals on the planet.
I can remember the first time I saw elephants on the horizon. I was so excited. And then when I saw them all around me, it was just one of the most amazing experiences I've had in my life. They were so enormous, and yet so gentle and so tender with their calves. It was incredibly moving.
But where you get elephants, you will always get poachers. Protecting the animals are these men, rangers of the Kenya Wildlife Service. They are so successful during the 1990s that the number of elephants in Tsavo actually doubles. But at the start of a new century, a mysterious force emerges. And suddenly the elephants face a new and truly terrifying enemy. A whole family of elephants, 10 in all, massacred in a single attack.
All the elephants are found close together because when elephants are stressed and they fear, they move closer together, which makes it easier for the poachers.
Normally, Tsavo poachers target single elephants. This attack is different. These poachers' methods reveal a chilling efficiency.
If you know what to do, it's very easy. Just kill the leader, they all go around. They cannot move without a leader. This was bad because they even killed the young ones. They even elephants without tusks.
The rangers suspect that this is the work of a new type of poacher. But who could these savage newcomers be? And where do they come from? The order goes out. Find them fast.
The resources that were mobilized to follow up on that operation were quite formidable.
Joining the task force, ex-British military intelligence officer Ian Saunders.
There was 4 aircraft, a helicopter, and probably around 150 rangers on that follow-up.
The problem is that the poachers have a head start. And they're almost certainly traveling light.
Most of the time they don't carry away the ivory. They bury. And then when the pressure is low, they'll come back, then unearth the ivory and take it away.
Tracking poachers out here is a massive task. The Greater Tsavo Conservation Area covers 16,000 square miles. That's twice the size of New Jersey. This country is not just vast. Tsavo lies just south of the equator. It's a land of hot, arid bush, where water is scarce. But this intense heat is also Saunders' best hope. The poachers will soon need to drink.
In this dry country, the route is dictated by availability of water.
Sure enough, when the patrol target water holes, they pick up tracks. The tracks don't just reveal the poacher's escape route. They tell Saunders the men he's chasing are slowing down.
You can see when you're tracking an individual in that sort of terrain how tired they're becoming. There are several things that you watch out for. One is indentations next to footprints. Normally that means that there's an individual leaning on the butt or leaning on his weapon for support, meaning he's tired. The gait between the footsteps shorten. A certain amount of foot dragging, and then they try to take green leaves off bushes to suck. So you can see the fatigue of someone you're tracking. They were tracked for over a day and a half, and they walked nearly 90 kilometers in the sun.
Finally, they spot them. Two members of the gang are up ahead.
We saw two guys rush away into the thick bush.
Cornered, the poachers turn and fight.
Get down! Get down!
One man is shot dead. Saunders presses the survivor for information. He quickly establishes the poachers carried something even more powerful than assault rifles.
He also had a rifle launch grenade and 120 rounds of ammunition on him.
It's the sort of firepower used to down helicopters, not elephants. And he discovers something even more disturbing. The men are not Kenyan. They are from Somalia. This is alarming news. Somalia, Kenya's neighbor, is a failed state. Since 1991, the country has been wrenched apart by rival warlords vying for power. 500,000 people are killed in the fighting. The clan-based militias don't just fight each other. They systematically rape, torture, and massacre civilians. The country is awash with guns and men who know how to use them. All that separates the chaos of Somalia and the Republic of Kenya is a 500-mile-long, lightly patrolled border. A border just a few days' trek from Tsavo. Saunders suspects that some of these militias have decided to target Kenya's elephants. If so, then the great beasts are now facing an enemy the likes of which they have never encountered before. The big question is, are the men simply renegades or part of an organized gang? He searches the dead man for clues.
There was a book, and in that book was telephone numbers.
Back at base, he soon works out the phone numbers are not Kenyan. Instead, he finds something intriguing. Not only are some of the numbers Somalian, they are linked to an informal money transfer network called Hawala.
One or two of those numbers were to individuals within the Hawala system that could move money about for payments and things.
Hawala is commonly used by Somali gangs to transfer money. Since 9/11, the US government has suspected that Hawala is used for money laundering and moving terrorist funds. When Saunders digs deeper, he discovers that the people behind the numbers are Somali ivory dealers. It's clear to him that the Tsavo poaching gang are part of a criminal syndicate based in Somalia.
This isn't people trying to feed their families. This is organized crime. It's easy. For a gang of guys that have spent most of their life fighting a civil war, they come into Kenya and hit elephants for much greater financial reward.
The revelation that Somali organized criminals are running poaching gangs becomes a top priority for the Kenya Wildlife Service. With large tusks fetching up to $1 million, Tsavo's 11,000 elephants could be in severe danger. But how to stop the poachers? The Wildlife Service's intelligence team realize that if Somalis are heading for Tsavo, they must first cross the Tana, the longest river in Kenya. The team's first step is to set up a network of paid informers in the area.
We've always tried to stop them from coming in. That's why we have intelligence cells, the whole Tana River stretch.
Outsiders stand out in rural communities. And sure enough, a tip-off comes in. A party of men is spotted heading straight for the Tana River. A ranger unit is immediately dispatched to the Tana Bridge.
We had information that people are coming, cross that bridge, and we laid ambushes there.
The rangers dig in. They watch and they wait.
Took a bit of time, 2 or 3 days, but the 4th day they came. They came in the morning hours when people were already dozing off. They just crossed. They came in straight, in single file.
Stop!
We know they were trained because normal ambushes, people tend to run away. These guys did not run away. They came to fight us.
When the shooting finally stops, the rangers rush the bridge. 2 of the gunmen escape. 2 more lie dead. But they are not the only casualties.
And they killed 3 of our rangers. Bad. You can't describe it.
It's another dark day for the Kenya Wildlife Service. 3 more names to add to the 60 others inscribed on the memorial dedicated to rangers killed in action. Back in the Kenyan capital, Wildlife Service agents search for clues. Who were the gunmen, and who has sent them?
The mobile phones, the cards, some identities clearly showed they were from Somalia.
And these men were no ordinary Somalis. They were Al-Shabaab.
We knew they were Al-Shabaabs. We are trained, and we know trained people.
Al-Shabaab is Africa's most vicious Islamic terrorist organization. Even in a country noted for its brutality, they are feared for their savagery and fanaticism. They never surrender, and they never give up.
The Al-Shabaabs actually faced us. They came to fight us. It's either they get an elephant or they get us. But we'll never arrest the Al-Shabaab.
For the Kenyan Wildlife Service, The question is, why would Islamic fundamentalists be coming after Tsavo's elephants? And what do they hope to gain? Al-Shabaab is effective because it is utterly ruthless. Opponents are beheaded and crucified. It regularly deploys suicide bombers and child soldiers. The group has close links to Al-Qaeda.
Al-Shabaab are Al-Qaeda's affiliate in East Africa. They remain a serious threat both to Somalia and increasingly to Kenya.
But running Al-Shabaab is expensive.
Salaries have to be paid to your fighters who are on the payroll, and weapons have to be bought. Other material for fighting your battle, whether it's bomb-making equipment, has to be paid for. From the research that I've done and that others have done, it seems pretty clear that Al-Shabaab's been making a lot of money from illegal dealings.
The idea starts to dawn on the Kenya Wildlife Service that Al-Shabaab could be funding itself by poaching elephants and selling the ivory. But they have no proof. Without it, they can't appeal to the international community for help. Then in 2011, 4 years after the battle on the Tana River, a radical wildlife organization goes hunting for that proof.
The Elephant Action League is a relatively new player, and they conduct investigations. They're looking at illegal wildlife trade and specifically ivory.
The EAL is based in LA, but has offices in Africa and Asia. It calls itself the tip of the spear in the war on wildlife crime. Its aim is to gather intelligence and disrupt animal smuggling networks. The EAL hires a team of investigators to infiltrate Nairobi's close-knit Somali community.
The investigation that they carried out involved a lot of local sources embedded in Somalia, in the Somali community, in Nairobi, sort of hidden cameras and stuff like that.
To preserve their anonymity, the EAL didn't wish to appear on this show. But they have allowed us to use images from some of their covert meetings with Somalis. They secretly film contacts, said to be middlemen, buying Al-Shabaab-sourced ivory. What they claim is startling. First, the EAL contacts reveal how easy it is for poachers to slip across the border.
The Kenya-Somali border area has always been a pretty lawless place. It really is an almost free zone for moving back and forth across that border.
Safely over the border, the poachers often hire local guides to lead them to Tsavo.
There are a lot of unemployed youth within the Tana River district. These youth are ready for hire. They know the best routes into Tsavo. They even know where the elephants might be found in Tsavo.
The guides also know when to travel.
It takes about 4 or 5 days walk, and I've ever been coming during rainy seasons mostly because of water. They need water while they walk.
Elephants also need water. And the poachers know if they stake out a water hole, sooner or later, a family group will turn up.
The Somali gang will come in specifically to identify a group. They will attack the group. They would kill all members of that elephant group.
The Elephant Action League investigators now discover what happens after the elephants have been slaughtered. Experienced poachers can judge the weight of ivory simply by the length and the feel of the tusks. The gangmaster then sends a text with the details of the haul to his Al-Shabaab contact in Somalia. Transport is now arranged to deliver the ivory to the traffickers who will smuggle it abroad.
So it is the responsibility of the regional poaching leader to organize how the ivory will be smuggled out of Kenya. And that is mostly done through a network of local traders. They are not Al-Shabaab per se, but mostly are attracted by the huge returns they get from doing that. They are dangerous, they are very dangerous because they are armed. Some of them have got even security detail, and they have a lot of money, so they bribe their way. And normally before they establish any foothold, they also try to have relationship with the senior police leadership and any law enforcement around.
The EAL claim Al-Shabaab is shipping the ivory out from a number of ports they control in Somalia. It's seen as an easier option to the traditional smuggling route through Kenya's largest port, Mombasa. But the EAL's most stunning claim is that Al-Shabaab is selling up to 3 tons of ivory a month, earning some $7 million a year.
The line between terrorism and organized crime can be very thin. The modus operandi is to identify local or localized illegal activity and exploit it to raise funds for terrorism. We've seen it in Afghanistan, and we're seeing it here in East Africa.
But the EAL's figures are disputed, and suspicions that Al-Shabaab are targeting Kenya's elephants and selling ivory largely fall on deaf ears. Then comes an event so horrifying, the world has to take notice. It's a normal Saturday morning in the Kenyan capital. Just after midday, reports start to come in of a serious disturbance at Nairobi's upmarket shopping mall, the Westgate Centre.
It was really shocking. Volleys of gunfire going on for hours in the middle of an ordinary quiet Saturday afternoon in Nairobi.
As Saturday shoppers flee in panic, men firing high-powered assault rifles and throwing grenades burst into the mall.
For those of us living in Nairobi, seeing the explosions and people running out of Westgate, you know, absolutely distraught. Many of them bloodied, injured, carrying babies and children. It was absolutely horrific.
The siege lasts 4 days. 4 terrorists are shot dead. By then, they have murdered 67 people and injured over 175. Al-Shabaab gleefully claim responsibility for the attack. Within days, the US reacts.
Al-Shabaab, with its horrific attack on the mall in Nairobi, fund their terrorist activities to a great extent from ivory trafficking.
In Washington, President Obama issues an executive order. It establishes a multi-agency task force to target criminal syndicates and terrorists profiting from wildlife crime. Elephant poaching is now a matter of national security. Senior defense and intelligence teams are all mobilized.
America is really leading the way on this issue. We really welcome the Obama task force. We welcome the fact that the US is leading by example, but also ensuring that they're providing funding and practical on-the-ground support to tackle this issue on the coalface where the poaching is happening.
Millions of dollars are released to train and equip thousands of new rangers and to strengthen and extend intelligence networks throughout Kenya. But vital though these efforts are, stopping Al-Shabaab is a long game. Hiding in the chaos of Somalia, it will take years to root them out. And until that happens, poachers will continue to cross the Kenyan border.
They still control large areas of the countryside and are able to move around with a relative degree of freedom. So they're certainly still a threat to Somalia and indeed to Kenya these days.
The international community is forced to adopt a second line of attack. Hit the jihadists where it hurts most, in the pocket. If they can't stop the terrorists from poaching ivory, they can at least cut them off from the world's biggest buyer, China.
We all know and accept that the demand for ivory is coming predominantly from China.
The situation is confused because China has large stocks of legal ivory, amassed before the 1989 global ban on new ivory sales.
They do have a legal trade in ivory, but what we're seeing is when we visit shops that have a license to trade in ivory, often they're trading illegal ivory as well as legal ivory.
The trouble is, more and more Chinese want to buy ivory.
With the huge economic boom in Asia and the massive increase in disposable income for a lot of wealthy Chinese people, ivory is seen as a status symbol. You can see ridiculous examples. There's a famous red sports car that has been covered in ivory carving as a kind of decadent expression of wealth.
The plan is to target the organized criminals, the traffickers and smugglers who buy the terrorists' ivory and sell it on to China.
The individuals involved in this are also involved in the trade in arms, the trafficking of humans, the trafficking of drugs. So they're the bad guys, they're the criminals, and they're seeking to profit from the death of tens of thousands of elephants every year.
In an unprecedented move, the Chinese government itself agrees to join the fight.
We're seeing very clear signs that there is a change afoot in China. It would seem the Chinese government are recognizing their market is putting a massive demand on wildlife resources in countries like Kenya. That's a fundamental shift and a clear message.
In late 2013, law agents from across the world fly into Kenya. They're from 28 countries, including China.
And the idea is to have a coordinated attack and sharing of information and sharing of intelligence.
Together they launch Operation Cobra. Its aim, to protect Kenya's elephants by severing all links between ivory traffickers, including Al-Shabaab, and the Far East. The obvious starting point for the Cobra squad is to stake out the major international transit hubs linking Kenya and China. Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is by far the busiest in East Africa. In recent years, it has seen a huge increase in the number of flights to and from the Far East.
It's pretty rare these days to go to any mid-sized town in any country in Africa and not find Chinese people running supermarkets, building roads, selling stuff in markets.
The airport is full of signs warning against smuggling ivory. And in recent years, there have been numerous busts. Many have been made by the Kenya Wildlife Service's Canine Patrol. Their dogs have been trained to sniff out ivory. But when the Cobra team analyze the arrest data, they realize security teams are mostly picking up small fry.
You have these just ordinary Chinese folk. They know it's something that's sought after, and they're getting a good deal here, so they buy it, and then they get busted. I think there's a difference between large-scale smuggling of ivory tusks and a guy who buys some chopsticks here.
The Cobra team are not after people smuggling ivory chopsticks. They want the big players. And it's now that the Chinese connection starts to pay off. After significant ivory seizures on inbound flights from Kenya, they share a crucial bit of intelligence with the rest of the Cobra team. They suspect that one of the major smuggling syndicates operating out of Nairobi isn't run by Kenyans or Somalis at all, but by Chinese nationals.
You know, with the influx of Chinese people into the African continent, it's not surprising at all that we're beginning to see Chinese criminals, you know, basing themselves in places like Nairobi and running their illegal businesses here in Kenya. When you get this massive influx of people, you're going to get good guys and bad guys coming.
The collaboration with the Chinese goes even deeper. They start pooling knowledge on the different ways gangs actually smuggle their ivory. The standard method has been to transport huge amounts disguised in shipping containers. But trafficking vast quantities can get you noticed. And if you are caught, you lose the lot. Instead, the Chinese team reveal that another, less well-known smuggling method is becoming popular.
We've encountered traders in China who've offered our investigators quantities of ivory pre-carved into round sort of balls, which they refer to as prayer beads. They might be turned into a bangle, or they might be turned into a worry bead item.
The trick is to have lots of couriers making lots of trips, each time smuggling a small quantity of beads. Most will get through. And if any are spotted, the kingpins have lost little. This key insight will provide the breakthrough for Cobra. Again, it all starts thanks to Cobra's Chinese contacts. An overnight flight from Nairobi touches down in the Chinese city of Shenyang. Customs officers spot something unusual about one man's luggage. It's full of small, round objects. The passenger is ushered into a back room. The man claims the round shapes picked up by X-ray are macadamia nuts, presents for his kids. But the hold-all contains other bags, and they're not full of nuts. They are balls, carved from ivory. The customs officers recover 1,200 ivory balls weighing over 19 pounds. The haul is worth some $28,000. Enough to buy Al-Shabaab scores of assault rifles. Until recently, the customs officials might have thought they were dealing with a small-time crook. But thanks to Operation Cobra, they suspect their man could be part of something bigger. So they interrogate him further. They now suspect he's a courier working for a major Chinese trafficker based in Nairobi, posing as a businessman.
Very often, by the time we've identified people involved in various networks, they've been operating for sometimes many years before they've been detected.
The Chinese immediately relay the information to the Cobra team in Nairobi.
The fact that the Chinese authorities contacted the Africans when they had apprehended that particular individual is a very positive step. And I think it's an indication of perhaps a new way of working going forward.
The intelligence they receive is detailed and precise.
The main information regarding the suspect was only the name and the phone number, and that he's residing in Nairobi.
They've got a name, a number, and a location. Now, finally, the Cobra team can get down to tracking and uncovering the suspected Chinese Ivory kingpin. With so much to go on, the investigators soon come up with an address. An apartment in the Riverside district of the Kenyan capital, one of Nairobi's most exclusive neighborhoods. This highly secure, gated community is popular with diplomats, wealthy expats, and Kenya's elite.
That is one of the posh areas in Nairobi. This is for the rich people, and that is where they was residing. He was living a good life. That I can tell you.
The operation starts with a round-the-clock watch on the apartment.
You need to confirm that it's him, so you effectively put surveillance on that apartment until you're happy that the guy that you're looking for is coming in and out of the front door.
Within days, the team's patience pays off.
It took 1 week to locate him and to identify him, because we needed to have a one-to-one, face-to-face, to be able to identify properly the suspect.
With the suspect positively ID'd, the team now track his every move. Their man reveals himself to be a creature of habit.
He was always going to gamble in the casino. The Chinese love gambling. They even knew the specific time he used to get out of the casino to his house.
As the surveillance continues, it is clear the target has no idea that Cobra is onto him. They decide it's time to take him down. The operation begins with the suspect following his usual routine.
We were able to trace him the evening before his arrest in a casino.
Spent almost all night there, because he came back home very late, almost in the morning.
One unit shadows the target. Another watches his apartment for when he returns.
He was identified by the operational team when he was coming into the compound.
With the suspect home, everything is going to plan.
If you're going to arrest one of your main targets, you're going to do it when there's the least risk to your officers. So any time between 2 and 7 a.m., he's going to be his sleepiest.
Only when they're confident he's asleep do they move in on the suspected ivory trafficker.
If he's been out the night before, he's fast asleep. His reactions are going to be slow. So you want to get in as quickly as possible before he has a chance to grab the gun, run off, jump out of the window.
Get up! No! Don't! Get up!
With the man firmly under control, law officers start searching the apartment. They uncover numerous items of ivory. And that's not all.
We were able also to get a lot of passports.
The captive is found with 25 fake passports. The team believe the documents have been used by his network of ivory couriers.
Finding these passports, that's the biggest clue to the fact that he is the linchpin. He's the spider at the centre of the web. The couriers that are being sent backwards and forwards using those passports, because he holds the passports, he's in control.
The Cobra team no longer have any doubt. They're sure they've nabbed a major player. Back at base, they start sifting through the evidence. They now put together a picture of how the suspected gang may have operated. They believe their method was to use lots of couriers, each smuggling a small amount of ivory. If caught, the courier would claim the ivory was for personal use, and punishment would generally be a small fine. Thanks to this approach, Cobra conclude the gang trafficked a large amount of ivory over a long period of time. The rolling up of the Nairobi smuggling ring is a triumph for Operation Cobra. All those arrested have since been handed over to the Chinese authorities and are awaiting justice. It is the first case of its kind.
It's one of the first operations that I'm aware of that showed such a high level of commitment and involvement from the Chinese authorities, and should be applauded because it's how things should happen.
The hope is that Cobra signals a major change of attitude by China, and that it will continue to turn against the illegal ivory trade.
We've seen definitely a positive step in the right direction, with China crushing ivory on multiple occasions, and also indicating that now that they're going to be controlling the trade and working towards a phasing out of the ivory trade.
Along with ivory crushing, a major public education program is underway.
There have been big campaigns run in China, billboards and so on, just making them realise that when you buy ivory, it comes from an animal.
We're working with key representatives from society, religious leaders, businessmen, actors, media stars, artists, to get the message out there that every piece of ivory represents a dead elephant, and that we want people to stop buying and fueling this needless trade.
Operation Cobra and the change in China is certainly a start. It means that there is now some hope for Kenya's elephants. But Al-Shabaab are still out there, and so are the teams of Somali poachers. Until the market in China is completely shut down and the fight is taken deep into Somalia, the future of Tsavo's elephants can never be secure.